become a multi-billion-dollar trade. Celebrities like Elton John, Kim Kardashian, Kanye West, Paris Hilton have all had their babies through surrogacy. But what are the darker sides to the surrogacy trade? To discuss this, I'm joined by author and writer Julie Bindel and former Conservative MP Miriam Cates. Miriam, I'd like to start with you first. You have spoken openly against surrogacy. Could you tell us what your concerns are?
Yes, I think surrogacy is something I'd never really thought much about until I started getting into the birth rate debate and about how Britain needs more children as well as the whole of the Western world. And people started suggesting that fertility treatments could be the answer to this. I mean, by the way, that they're not. They just never, they're not scalable. So we park that. But it made me start to think about surrogacy. And somebody pointed out to me that in the UK, it's actually illegal to sell a puppy before it's weaned. And I think most people would have a gut reaction to taking a puppy off its mother the minute it's born, not letting it be fed, not letting it be nurtured. And yet, essentially, that's what surrogacy does. It deliberately brings a child into the world for the express purpose of taking it off its mother at birth. And if in the UK we think that's absolutely immoral and unethical when it comes to puppies, how can we possibly support it when it comes to babies? And I think, unfortunately, too often this debate, as in so many others, and the gender debate, which I know Julie's involved in as well, is another one of these, it's all focused around adult rights. And does a particular adult, a single man, have the right to become a parent? Now, we can all argue that it's a good thing to become a parent and feel very compassionate towards people who, for whatever reason, can't become parents, of course. But that's different to saying that there is a right to become a parent. And if you do have a right to become a parent, then surely a baby has a right to its mother in the way that a puppy does. So I think seeing this through the lens of individual adult rights is not helpful. And actually, a better lens to look at it is our duty to protect the vulnerable. And of course, the most vulnerable people in this situation are the babies. The second most vulnerable people are the surrogate mothers. And they both get a very, very raw deal out of surrogacy. So I think we need a different language, a different philosophical framework to talk about things like surrogacy, because individual competing adult rights just doesn't cut it.
All right, having all kind of technical difficulties tonight. Good evening. All right, so tonight, I made the executive decision about an hour ago that I'm actually going to have to break this up into probably 3 or 4 parts, because there is no way I can do this subject justice in one part in 2 hours or an hour and a half. There are several parts to tonight's topic. Why don't we prioritize the safety and needs of children anymore? So there are many parts to this topic. Tonight, I am going to focus on one part that I personally believe is diabolical, and it is discussing surrogacy. We are going to discuss surrogacy tonight, and I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions about it. You are welcome to give your thoughts and opinions, and I can even drop the link if you are interested in coming up and talking about this subject. Now, for a lot of people, especially if I'm being honest, people in our community, I'm going to share a lot of information that you may not be aware of, but I want you to understand this. Surrogacy is something that is gaining traction. It is picking up speed, even in our community. Okay. And usually the first step to this is IVF. I'm actually going to talk about IVF in a whole nother stream. So like I said, there are 3 or 4 parts to this main topic, why we don't prioritize the safety and needs of children. Tonight, we're going to talk about surrogacy, because this is one of the ways in which children are being harmed. We are not putting them before us. I'm going to talk at length about Katie Faust and her organization, her nonprofit. As a matter of fact, I'm going to pull it up now. I'm going to go to her website now. And we are going to talk at length about, there we go. putting children's rights before adult desire. Okay, so I'm going to drop this in the chat. I am going to share this website with you all that has some really amazing information. Let's see, there we go. All right, so here is the website. It is called thembeforeus.com. I'm going to drop the link for it. Oh, sorry. I can't do that at the same time. I'm going to drop the link for it in the chat when I come back. But it is all about putting children's rights before adult desires. And this website is going to go into great detail about some statistical information. It's talking about the family dynamic. The data is clear. Children without their mother and father are at risk for everything. 20 times more likely to end up in prison, 9 times more likely to drop out of high school, 5 times more likely to die by suicide. This particular organization, they champion the family. They champion children being raised by their mother and their father, their biological mother and biological father, in a happy, healthy, low conflict marriage. Okay, so people are always quick to say, oh, well, a lot of marriages are horrible. A lot of marriages are toxic. We're not talking about those marriages. Okay, a just society asks adults to do hard things so children don't have to. Okay, when adults come first, marriage is about adult fulfillment. Children can be bought and sold, and that is in fact what it is. Family structure reflects adult preferences. Gender is optional in parenting, and parenthood is a right, and children sacrifice for adults. When children come first, marriage is about child protection. Children belong to their biological mother and father. Family structure conforms to child rights. Gender balance, both mom and dad, masculine and feminine, is essential. Parenthood is a responsibility, and adults sacrifice for children. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and come back. Okay. Y'all, what in the world? I have all kind of technical difficulties. Y'all, my apologies. Okay, what is happening? See, this is what happens when I try to exit. Oh, it won't let me. This is what happens when I try to get slick, y'all. Because y'all know I'm not super tech savvy. So tonight we're going to do a deep dive into surrogacy. You're going to learn some things about surrogacy. And let me see if I can pull up this one. Okay, it's actually this one. So she says, I've been saying for years, if we can't separate dogs or cats from their litter for weeks, and it's usually 6 to 8 weeks, why is surrogacy allowing it within minutes or hours? Why do we do such cruel things to new babies? I've seen beautiful videos of babies being born and handed straight to a stranger, its new mom. Cord cut seconds before. The videos show the love that new mother feels, but no one can tell me that isn't a lifetime of trauma for that child, no matter how loved it is or how wonderful the new parents are. There should be a waiting period and a slow introduction to the new parents at least. So exactly, we are seeing videos. I'm going to show another one like this.
This shatter my heart. First, this precious baby girl was removed from her mother, the only person she has known for the last 9 months, within what looks like her first moments after birth. We give puppies and kittens more respect than that by waiting 6 to 8 weeks before we remove them from their mom. There's outrage over newborn calves being taken away from their mothers in the dairy industry. Newborn children, though, Doesn't matter. Rip them from their mother's breast hours or days after birth. They'll be fine. Their mom needs to be paid, and the couple that paid for them wants the child. This baby girl's rights to not be seen as a product to be bought, sold, and traded between adults haven't been considered since her conception. So I guess it's crazy to assume her well-being would be prioritized after birth either. The second still very disturbing aspect of photos like these is the posing in the hospital bed like you just gave birth. What a slap in the face to moms everywhere. To labor and pain and work through and struggle to deliver a child out of your own body is the most intense and incredible physical ability of women everywhere. To have men appropriate this strictly female experience is, I just don't understand where the feminists are. I thought the idea of women being baby-making machines was despicable, but when a woman is used strictly for that end and metaphorically or literally shoved off the hospital bed so men can erase her from the picture, where is the feminist? The most disturbing and heartbreaking aspect of surrogacy, though, regardless of whether the couple is gay or lesbian or whatever else, is the fact that the rights and well-being of the child are completely disregarded from the moment of their conception. And you might be thinking, well, isn't this kind of like adoption? No, it's not. Adoption is not wrong. It's a beautiful and sacrificial attempt to bring healing to a broken familial situation. Surrogacy is intentionally creating that broken relationship by ensuring the child is going to be abandoned by one or both of his or her parents. This poor girl, created and traded at the whims of the adults with the belief that children are owed to them. This girl's never gonna have a mom, but as long as one of her dads is like more feminine, should be fine. I guess moms are just totally replaceable by men. That's what this screams. Supporting surrogacy necessitates you don't think children have a right to their own mom and dad.
All right, I'm going to share this. I'm going to share this link with you. There we go. I'm going to put it in the comments here. It's Them Before Us. If you have a chance to check out their website, they're going to give you a lot of good insight. They're a wonderful organization. I've been supporting them for about 2 years now. But you're going to hear some horror stories, right? You're going to hear some horror stories. And people in this industry want you to believe that it is a one-off, or it is, oh, that's not the norm, or that's not the majority. But I want you to understand something. When we're talking about human life, when we're talking about children, we cannot afford these types of situations to happen. Like, we cannot afford these type of things to happen. All right, let me pull up another one.
I think that's in God's will, so we're on board with that.
And what if your surrogate wasn't on board with that?
But don't they have to kind of go with what our wishes are?
Well, it's your baby, but it's her body, so she could terminate the pregnancy with any unplanned outcome.
Oh.
We never thought about that one.
Well, I really didn't know that.
I mean, it'd be something that we have to discuss.
I'm definitely getting freaked out, I think, as the questions go by, just because of course, I know it's her body, my baby, but I really did not put 2 and 2 together that means she has the control, whether she would want to, terminate the twin. Me not having control over that outcome makes me very nervous.
Surrogacy is ultimately a contract. It makes a baby a commodity that is then effectively sold, and it's promised contractually to be delivered. Theoretically, the surrogate could kill that baby. Similarly, there are couples who hire surrogates who decide that they don't want the baby anymore because there is some sort of medical diagnosis, or they just change their minds, and then they can demand and order an abortion. Human lives are not commodities to be sold. And it's interesting what Khloe Kardashian says here at the end. She's like, this makes me nervous. I don't have control. It's not even about control, because nobody should have the right to take an innocent human life, to abort a baby. No parent has the right to take the life of their child. They actually have a responsibility to care for their child. I hope that we can embrace restorative reproductive medicine and holistic healthcare that cares for moms so that they can better be healthy and pregnant if they are hoping to have a baby one day, and have better outcomes for both mom and for baby.
So we know that the Kardashians, Kim Kardashian and now Khloe Kardashian, they have both utilized surrogacy. And in that short clip, we saw where Khloe and Tristan, their last child was born to a surrogate. And you notice how she used the word controlled, right? Because at the end of the day, that's really what all of this is. All of this is, once again, humans trying to play God, humans trying to control nature. That's what all of this is about. And the gall, this is what I find just abhorrent about this, the gall of these people to think that because of their money, because they are paying this person to incubate their embryo, they think they have control. Okay, really pay attention. There's language that people in this trade use over and over and over. I have watched hundreds of these videos now, and there's language that I notice being used over and over and over. And it's this idea of, we're paying this person a lot of money, and so therefore that it's like a slave. That person no longer has sovereignty. That person no longer has autonomy. That it's like I own you, so you got to do what I say. But what the gentleman was saying there is, if you implant more than one embryo, and let's say 3 of them take, and the surrogate says, well, I don't want to carry triplets, she could terminate one of those pregnancies. And they were like, what? Well, we didn't think about that. Yeah, because you don't own her. But these wealthy people really believe that once they pay a person money, they really believe that they have control over them and their bodies. It's wild to me. So I want you to look at this, this case. Apparently, an Ontario same-sex couple has filed a lawsuit against the surrogate mother who carried their child after she refused their request to terminate the pregnancy following prenatal findings of a cleft lip and a possible heart defect. The surrogate says she chose to continue the pregnancy because she believed the baby's condition was treatable and not life-threatening. The child was born in 2024, later received medical treatment, and is reportedly healthy. The lawsuit alleges, among other claims, that the surrogate breached the surrogacy agreement and failed to properly communicate about the pregnancy, while the surrogate denies the allegations and says she is now facing a lawsuit seeking approximately Canadian $600,000, which she says could cost her home. The case remains pending in an Ontario court. Okay, so there are several cases like this. I'm going to actually show a video clip of a woman who she was carrying a male gay couple's baby. She was carrying their baby son, and she was diagnosed with cancer. So this was her second surrogacy round. So she had done it before for another same-sex couple. The second time she did it, she got diagnosed with cancer, and the cancer was aggressive. So at 24 weeks, she was told by her oncologist and her OBGYN that either she needed to terminate the pregnancy so she could start chemotherapy, or she needed to deliver the pregnancy, and they would do everything they could to save the life of the baby. When she talked to the gay couple about this, they wanted her to terminate the pregnancy. She did not feel good about doing that. And she went to all these different attorneys. She went to the hospital. I'm going to play that video because it's a really, really sad case. But she really did all she could to try to save the life of the baby.
The baby and also myself and my family. So it was just the whole relationship went a different way that I did not ever expect it to be.
So in their ideal world, like, did they just want you to put off treatments altogether and just push it until
I'm
39
not sure.
weeks?
I mean, if it was the original diagnosis, I could have waited, like I said, but just with they found that it metastasized and there was just no longer, then I had to think of my children and my family, and I couldn't I couldn't wait any longer because it was spreading so fast.
Right. Okay. So once you found out that no, you really need to start chemotherapy right now, this is metastasized, as you said, has gone to your liver, your life is at risk. Did the doctor then say you can't stay pregnant? What was that like?
That was a hard conversation because the way she basically was like, your option is terminate or deliver. And we knew that the dads were extremely against delivering early, obviously. So my OB again tried, she went all the way up the chain of the hospital that she works at. The parents threatened the hospital. They threatened all the doctors. If anyone delivered me, you know, they were going to be sued. They threatened anybody they possibly could with a lawsuit. My OB was trying everything she could to get me to deliver at any of their hospitals, which they were basically refusing because they didn't want that on their hands. And then she was like, well, we can get some people lined up who will adopt. We had, I think, 3 different families lined up that were willing to adopt. I would have taken care of it. Like, I have a sister who would have taken it. You know, and you don't even know how long the baby would have survived, but if he did, you know, life-saving measures at a 25-week baby is not like it used to be. You know, that would have been a death sentence 10 years ago or whatever, but now 25-week babies make it.
Yes.
And, you know, by kindergarten, they're completely normal. You know, they'd have a couple things, but they're still a baby and they still matter, and he still could have, you know, brought joy to so many different people.
Right. And so tell me about the reaction and the response then to all of that from these 2 men. I mean, obviously I know that they refused, but what were some of the
we
words
had to
that
go
they
through
said?
the lawyers, and instantly they were just like, we terminate. That's it. That's the only conversation they would have. They're like, terminate. That's it.
And
my OB tried, the attorneys tried, we all tried, I tried, my agency, you know, it was just, they're like, absolutely not. We don't want that. We want the baby terminated, which to me was wild because they had spent so much money and time and so many people involved, you know, to get them a baby. And then for them to be like, oh, just pull the plug. We're done.
Wow.
Like,
so you had there was the option to deliver this baby.
There was plenty of options.
And they could have taken care of the baby and just said, you know, this is going to be hard, but parents do this. There are parents of NICU babies everywhere.
Yeah.
Or if they didn't want to, which I still think is insane, but they didn't want to, as you said, someone else could have. And they said, no, the only thing that we want is for this baby to be killed.
We just want the baby done. Yep. They wanted no life-saving measures. If the baby was born alive, they wanted the baby just completely gone.
Erased.
And since that, which was in May, no, that was in June. Sorry, I don't know the exact date, but they haven't reached out to me once. They haven't asked my agency once how I'm doing. Nothing.
Wow.
Completely ghosted.
Wow. And was it part of your contract that you had to terminate if they told you to, or?
No. So in the contract, basically what it said was I had full control over my body. So basically while he's inside of me, I had 100% control. The minute that he is born, the parents have 100% control.
Right. So did you, how did they make you? Like, what were they saying? How could they say then you have to do this if the baby was inside you?
They could say it. They technically couldn't force me, right? You can't hold somebody down to make them get an abortion. That's why we had to go to a different hospital because the hospital that I was working with and my OB worked with, they refused to deliver me or do anything with me at all because of what the dads were threatening, the lawsuits and all that stuff. So my OB was able to find a different hospital for me to go and do all of this. And it's I don't want to say ironic because it's not funny in any way, but the baby was born on Father's Day morning at 4 a.m. Wow. So it's like Father's Day the rest of their life. You know, they're going to have to think about that their baby. That's the day their baby was born. If they even still think of it as a baby, they kept calling it a fetus. Every appointment, they just say the fetus. And even every doctor be like, yeah, the baby. Because it's a baby. It's 25 weeks. Like it's a viable child if it, you know, when it's born.
Yeah. And So, I mean, I don't know. I know that this has got, I mean, it's so fresh. It's so fresh. This just happened. And I know that this is really hard, but so you had to go to another hospital. Was the baby delivered alive or was it a termination? Was it an abortion?
I don't want to go too deep into the details of the actual delivery and labor part, but I did go to a different hospital on Saturday, was checked in. I started meds to induce labor. I had him 4 a.m. or 4:15-ish that Sunday, Father's Day. I didn't hold him. I looked at him and they gave me pictures and like a box of stuff. My mom held him. So he was, cared for and loved a little bit. I don't know how much that means to most people, but he was held and wrapped up and swaddled, and he didn't make it. Obviously, he's not alive, but
so he was born alive, but not given the life-saving measures.
I just don't want to go too much into detail on the actual part of that, but he was held and cared for and loved for a short amount of time before they took him. But the parents did want to cremate him. That's the other part that was kind of confusing.
And what was that
so
like
they did get his remains.
emotionally? I mean, what was that like emotionally for you? Because you had felt this baby
the week leading up to it.
Kick and move.
Oh yeah, he was so active. This baby was so wild. I felt him like nonstop. It was really fun to be able to feel him moving all the time. And then the week leading up to the delivery, I cried probably more than I have in my whole life. I haven't really had much emotion since then. I think I'm just kind of numb still because I had him on Sunday, and then that Wednesday I jumped right into chemo. So that was my first cancer chemo treatment.
Wow. You've been,
but I did I hemorrhaged after the birth because, your body wasn't ready to go into labor. So the placenta wasn't coming out. So I lost a lot of blood. So when I went to do my first chemo treatment, I was extremely sick, obviously because my body just had a baby and it didn't know what was going on. But the treatments since that first one have been easier.
Wow, that poor baby. And so basically it's just such a difficult place because you had to deliver early in order to have these treatments. But after the baby is outside of you, it's not like you could have said, but now I'm going to adopt this baby or save this baby or whatever, because as you said, your rights are totally terminated after the baby comes out, and the baby had to come out so that you could have these treatments. And so, I mean, this is why it's just so complicated and so sad. I do wonder if the men even saw their baby boy, their son or one of their sons before he was cremated. Do you know?
I no, because he was cremated here and they don't live up here where I live.
Okay. So they really just wanted to forget that this whole thing ever happened.
That's why I was confused why they wanted to cremate him, because they didn't see it as a baby. So why did they want his remains and to save all of that, stuff?
Right.
If it's just a fetus and it didn't matter and he wouldn't have, it was just confusing.
If you don't believe that there is wickedness in the world, that there are truly wicked people in the world. Now, these are two gay men who they had a contract with this woman to house their embryo, right? So she is the womb for rent. And when things went sideways, they wanted to kill the child. They wanted to terminate at 24 weeks. And they wanted to, that didn't work out perfectly. Life, how dare life and nature intervene with our perfect plan? See, this is my problem with humans. Y'all really think that you're in control of something. You really think you all have the haughtiness and the pride to think that you control things. How dare our perfect plan not turn out the way we thought. Well, scrap it, kill the child, ghost the surrogate mother. We just won't even, I mean, she's disposable. Because again, we had money. We paid money. We paid you to do this. Now it then went sideways. So, we don't need you anymore. Go on about your business. And we're just going to discard the baby. Like when I tell y'all there is wickedness in this world, you have no idea. You have no idea the depth and length of people's wicked desires. And this woman is probably traumatized. Like, can we be honest? This was her second surrogacy. She had carried another child for another same-sex couple. And if that ain't God trying to teach you something, if that's not God trying to tell you to stop this foolishness, what are you doing? What are you doing? Stop this foolishness. We have got to stop this foolishness. So I just wanted to share something with you. There are countries in the world that actually ban this. Okay. Total bans on commercial and altruistic surrogacy. And we're going to define each one. So there are countries that believe in altruistic surrogacy. And that basically means that a family member or a friend or someone you know is going to allow your embryo to be implanted in them, and you're not going to be paid. Okay. You are doing this out of the love of your heart. You are not going to be paid to do this. That's what they consider an altruistic surrogate. That surrogate can utilize their egg and the husband's sperm. That surrogate can have the embryo implanted within them, but they will not be paid to carry the child and birth the child. Commercial surrogacy, which is predominant, right? Altruistic surrogacy happens maybe 3% of the time. 97% of the time, it is what's called commercial surrogacy. And that means, do we want to tell the truth? Let's tell the truth. I have noticed that many of my fellow Latter-day Saints display a level of naivete surrounding the topic of egg and sperm donation. So let's get something absolutely clear. The word donation in the fertility industry is a euphemistic myth. In reality, the process of two men obtaining a child involves the buying and selling of a woman's genetic material and the renting of a different woman's womb. This process not only commoditizes the child, it also splits the role of mother into at least two purchasable parts. First, the biological mother, and second, the birth mother. Why do we continue to use the word donor, donation, when that is not what is happening at all? They are buying and selling genetic material. That is what's happening. Okay, so just understand there is altruistic surrogacy, which is about 3% of all surrogate births. 97% of those births are commercial. There is buying and selling of eggs, of sperm. We are renting a woman's body. We're renting her womb. So she is the carrier and deliverer of the baby. So think about it this way. If two gay men want to have children, right? We know that there is no other way other than adoption and surrogacy. There is no possible way for two men to have a child together because that is actually not God's design. In God's perfect design, he made it so that a man fits inside of a woman. And when the man emits his sperm inside of the woman and it hits her egg, it makes a baby. But a man putting himself inside of a man where there is no egg, no baby will be made. So 2 men must go the route of adoption or the route of surrogacy. And for 2 men, it is purchasing an egg. So that's one woman that they need her genetic material. Purchasing a womb. That's 2 women. Sometimes, and I've seen this happen, they use the same woman. So sometimes the 2 gay men, one of them will give their sperm. We're not going to say donate. They'll give their sperm. They'll put it inside of the woman. Her egg then gets fertilized, and that woman carries the baby and gives it to the 2 men. Okay? Y'all, there's a bug on my computer. But oftentimes that's not the case. It is usually they purchase the egg. One of the men fertilizes that egg with his sperm, and they put that egg inside of another woman. That is what usually happens. So they have outsourced to 2 women to produce these children. Okay. And in the end, let's go here. In the end, the child will not experience either one of the women in his life, his or her life. The child will be raised by 2 men. So right there, the child has been robbed of their biological mother and their birth mother. They will have no mother. Okay? Because we have deemed that it's not necessary.
Act like maternal love is not a switch that somebody can flip and say, now I'm going to be a mom. It does not matter if you've got long hair or you're wearing an apron or you're more maternal, men are going to act like men around children.
Hey, who do you want, Dada or Pop?
Mama.
No, Mama. Do you want Dada or Pop? No. Do you want Dada? You want Pop? No way, Jose. There is no Mama. I'm so sorry. You have Dada and you have Pop. 2 choices. No Mama. No. No Mama. Dada or Pop? No.
Well, of course, that's the video that broke the internet. There was such outrage because he's like, hey, it was just a funny video. And the baby doesn't speak English. The baby doesn't know what they're saying. And that's true. But why is it that mama, some form of mama, is the word for mother in Chinese, in Hindi, in South Korean, in most of the Western languages? Because it is the easiest sound for a baby to make. It's the same movement as what they're going to be doing when they're nursing. And so it makes sense that the first sounds that a baby make universally are attached to the first person that the child is connected to. So what this child was doing was actually so much more profound than understanding what English is, right? They were voicing that there is a primary person that I don't have. I have this innate instinctual response, and the person that's supposed to be connected to it is gone. The other thing that I notice about this video is the dad is doing what dads do. They're being playful, right? They're much more tactile. What would a mom do in that situation? If a mom had said, who do you want, mama or dada? And he went, mama. What would a mom do? Oh, baby, baby, right? She would have pulled the baby really close. When I talk about how mothers are more intuitive, more emotionally connected, that's what I'm saying. That 5-month-old baby at that moment needed the person that would pull them in. They didn't need more tactile excitement, bouncing. They needed the connection. Dads can't turn that on. Maternal love is not a switch that somebody can flip and say, now I'm going to be a mom. You will act like a man to that child. It does not matter if you've got long hair or you're wearing an apron or you're more maternal, men are going to act like men around children. And that's good as long as they have a mother that's going to act like women around children too. And that kid did not have it. And it's just, that's such an example of these are human realities about children that you will never legislate away, are never going to go away, even if you gestate a child in a third party, even if you take them to pride parades and you're around a diversity of families, that child has fundamental needs that culture, law, and technology are never going to override.
And what's crazy to me, we're going to watch some other videos, is we have intellectualized all of this. Like we have intellectualized biology. We've intellectualized nature. You're going to hear a surrogate tell you that, no, I don't bond to the baby growing inside of me. I don't, I intellectually know it's not my baby. That's like women saying, oh, I can sleep around and not get attached to any of the men I sleep with. Not knowing that her body is going to release a hormone called oxytocin. And that oxytocin is going to register that man as her husband. Her body is going to register, oh, this is my husband. This is my man. And when that experience is over and the man is gone, her body is going to say, where's my husband? Where's my man? What's going on? Where is he? Why can't I find him? They really believe, this is how haughty and prideful that humans are. They really believe that they can intellectualize biology. They can intellectualize a biological, physical response. That, oh, I know that the baby is not my baby, so I don't grow attached. I don't bond to it. I know I read the contract. I signed it. I know the baby's not my baby. And you're going to hear Katie Faust say, well, the baby can't do that. The baby growing inside of you believes that you are its mother. The baby can't intellectually know that these two gay men, that you signed a contract, that you're getting paid, and these two gay men are its parents. The baby doesn't know that. The baby knows that it's growing inside of its mother. You are its mother. And that is what's so despicable about what adults are doing. Like I said, adults are intellectualizing all of this. But the truth is, the baby is the closest thing to nature. It can't do that. It is instinctual. It is nature. It's biology.
That we're about to have. This is not something that is all that rare, but is actually, again, part of a much larger problem. There were two stories that caught my eye over the past couple of years that showed, wow, there's a lot going on. There are a lot of things that we just don't notice and haven't been paying attention to when it comes to fertility clinics, when it comes to the surrogacy industry. I was someone who didn't know that this was happening until the last few years or so. This is according to CBS. July 6, 2022, so a year ago, same-sex couples sue fertility clinic over alleged wrong-sex embryo implant. Two men, Albert and Anthony Saniger, filed a lawsuit against their IVF clinic, HRC Fertility, and their doctor, claiming that their hopes of having a son were hampered after a female embryo was wrongly implanted in their surrogate, resulting in a daughter being born in 2021. So their daughter was born. Their daughter was born using at least one of their sperms. So for one of them, it was their biological daughter. And they're so incensed about this. They're still so angry about this that they're actually suing the fertility clinic over it because they were promised a son. According to the New York Post, this is in March of 2022, couple who asked for female embryo sues fertility clinic over baby boy. So here we have the opposite. A lesbian couple, Heather and Robin, said that they would only have children if they could have girls because Heather was still traumatized from being sexually assaulted on 2 different occasions. The New York Fertility Clinic assured them it would not be a problem to only implant female embryos. And we should stop right there and consider what it takes to create these embryos and then to select embryos. Of course, you have to go through the IVF process. In the case of 2 men, this is an egg donor who has to go through the IVF process. In the case of 2 women, probably one of the women is going through the IVF process. And in the case of 2 women, you have a sperm donor. In the case of 2 men, you've got an egg donor and one of their own sperms. They come together, create it in a lab. You create as many embryos as you want to. And then from there, doctors in a lab can test whether or not these are female or male embryos. And so if they have a sex preference, then the rest of the embryos that do not meet that sex preference are discarded. For those of us who are pro-life,
who know that human life starts at conception and therefore has value from the point of conception, this is a problem. This is eugenics, right? So even to be able to have a preference and then select for that preference, that is at least, that is one consequence of separating the conception of life from sex. There are some things that are supposed to be a mystery. There are some things that are supposed to be left up to the Lord. And so you see how there are already, just in the IVF process, there are some moral and ethical questions that need to be confronted and answered. And in this case, they are so angry that their plain God didn't work out how they wanted it to, that they are actually suing for money, these fertility clinics, because they conceived a child that was the quote unquote wrong gender. The funny thing is, I don't know this for sure, but it's probably a pretty safe assumption that both of these are progressive couples, probably think gender in some cases is some kind of construct that a child can choose. And yet they are so adamant that from the point of conception, they either need to have a son or a daughter, a male or a female. So Heather.
Interesting. Once again, people trying to play God, and whoops, because you're not God and mistakes are made by humans every single day, how dare you deliver a girl when we wanted a boy? And the lesbian couple, did you hear their reasoning? These people should not be parents. Did you hear their reasoning for wanting a girl? That one of them had experienced sexual assault twice and therefore didn't want a boy. These people should not be parents. These people, they got something going on in their head. They got problems. And this is a form of eugenics. So one side saying we don't want girls, one side saying we don't want boys because, I was sexually assaulted at some point by a man. And so an innocent baby boy is a threat. That's sick. That's a sickness to the highest degree. But this is where we are. This is where we are. And people don't see anything wrong with it. This is insane. This is insanity. This is where we are. All right, I'm going to show you a truly crazy case. I am still trying to figure out what is happening here. And then we're going to go to YouTube and watch some videos over there. Because what's interesting is you're going to find that it's not just children that are actually, being bought and sold or not wanted or, killed. I mean, this is horrible. But it also definitely takes advantage of the surrogate. I want you to understand something. I wrote some notes here about the actual surrogate, and I thought this was really interesting. So there are really only two types of surrogates. There's only two types of women who do this, and I'm not able to pull it up now, but I found a lot of videos and posts of Black girls starting to do this. This is becoming like a Black girl thing. Like Black women and younger Black women are starting to do this to either pay off student loan debt or, to make an absorbent amount of money within a year. Like Black women are starting to do this. This is like a new way to make money. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. So there are only two types of surrogates. The first one is someone who is poor, is someone who is desperate for money. They need to make a lot of money and they don't have the education or the skills necessary in their career, in their profession. And so in their mind's eye, they're young, they're healthy, they're either going to sell their eggs or they're going to do surrogacy. And there is such a thing as, in my notes, it is called, they have a new thing now. Let me find it, where it is, you heard of the passport bros, right? So the passport bros is a thing. They have something called reproductive tourism. is when people go to other poor third world countries to get surrogates or babies. Surrogacy is often used to exploit financially vulnerable women in other countries in the absence of legal protections for these women and for the children. Okay, so we don't allow puppies and kittens to be separated from their mothers until at least 8 weeks following their birth before being adopted or sold. The commodification of newborn humans is striking by comparison. That baby is removed from the birth mother within seconds or minutes. Okay, so these are human beings. These are human beings. This is crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right, I want to share with you another video. All right, let me pull this up. This I'm not even sure what to make of this. This story is so crazy. There's another crazy story out of LA, but this is over in the country of Georgia, which is right next door to Ukraine.
Continue to 26 years old, Christina Ozturk has 22 children with dreams of expanding her family to a staggering 105 biological offspring with her 58-year-old millionaire husband, Galip Ozturk. Christina, who is originally from Russia, now residing in Georgia, has expanded her family through surrogacy with a remarkable 21 children, 20 of whom were born in just over a year. The surrogate mothers cost around $9,707 for each pregnancy. Most of the kids, except 2, were born in 2020, with the oldest, Victoria, born in 2014 from a previous marriage. Christina has had to raise her 22 kids alone, as her husband is currently serving an 8-year prison sentence for drug-related charges. But they continue to welcome children through surrogacy. She has had to take on most of the parenting responsibilities since her husband's arrest, expressing her loneliness despite having a large family around. Christina revealed that she spent around $142,000 on surrogacy between March 2020 and July 2021, and at one point they had 16 live-in nannies, collectively paid $68,000 a year. Despite the challenges, Christina remains committed to her dream of expanding her family even further.
What is the point of this? What is the point of doing this? Like, what is the point of this? This woman and her husband are mentally ill. This woman is mentally ill. Her husband is a criminal. And because they have money, this is what humans think. You think because you have money. And you need to understand something. I have to talk about this to people every single day. I have to say, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. There is a scripture in the Bible that actually warns humans about this very thing. But because humans, like I said, I'm going to use these words over and over, because they are so haughty, because they are so prideful, because they want to play God, they think that because they have the money to do this, that they should do it. They really believe like, oh, I have the money to do this, so I can do it, so I should do it. Let me quickly, I'm going to pull up this story. This is crazy. Okay, I'm going to pull up this story quickly. And we're going to take a look at this story. This happened in LA. This is really crazy. Like when I tell you people are sick, I'm going to show you this story. This happened in LA.
In a $4 million Los Angeles mansion, the cries of infants echoed through gilded halls. 6 nannies, 16 toddlers, endless surveillance, and a mysterious Chinese couple who insisted they were all family. But when one baby was rushed to the hospital with life-threatening injuries, the facade cracked wide open, and the FBI uncovered a secret darker than anyone imagined. Welcome to Red Eastern True Crime. If you want to see more crime stories, please like and subscribe. Let's dive into this case. It began in May with a baby, just 2 months old. The infant arrived at a Los Angeles hospital, limp, silent, bleeding into the brain. Doctors diagnosed intracranial hemorrhage and suspected abuse. They immediately notified police. Following the hospital's lead, officers drove to a sprawling Arcadia mansion worth millions. Outside, surveillance cameras watched from every corner, and warnings at the gate declared the property was guarded by armed security. But what lay inside was worse than anything they expected. Along with the injured infant, officers discovered 15 more children, all with identical shaved heads, cared for by 6 nannies. It didn't look like a home. It looked like something else entirely. When police reviewed surveillance tapes from May 5th, the evidence was chilling. A 56-year-old Chinese nanny, Li Chunmei, was caught on camera violently shaking the baby's head, striking the infant until the child collapsed unconscious. Standing nearby were the baby's legal parents, 38-year-old Sylvia Zhang and her 65-year-old husband, Guojun Xuan. They watched it happen. They didn't intervene. They didn't call for help. For 2 long days, they did nothing, until the baby suffered seizures, forcing them to rush the child to the hospital. And this baby wasn't alone. Beyond the mansion, police found 6 more children hidden in other Los Angeles properties. With the hospitalized infant included, the tally reached 22 children in total. Sylvia Zhang insisted all 22 were her own. She told police she simply loved big families. But when officers examined the paperwork, every birth certificate listed Sylvia as the mother and Xuan as the father. The children ranged in age from 2 months to 13 years old. Yet all those inside the mansion were toddlers under 3. Their birthplaces were scattered across different states, and the spacing between their births was impossibly short. It was biologically impossible for Sylvia to have carried them all. On May 9th, Sylvia and Xuan were arrested on felony charges of child endangerment and neglect. The nanny, Li Chunmei, fled and remains a fugitive. Investigators soon uncovered another layer. The Arcadia mansion was more than just a residence. It was the headquarters of Mark Surrogacy, an agency that arranged babies through surrogate mothers. Sylvia Zhang was its operator. And of the 22 children, police believe only 1 or 2 were actually born to her. The rest were carried by surrogates, spread across the U.S. All 22 children were taken into foster care. Because the case stretched across multiple states and raised suspicions of human trafficking, the FBI stepped in. A local child abuse case had escalated into a federal probe. Yet, shockingly, just 4 days later, Sylvia and Xuan each posted $500,000 bail and walked free, awaiting the FBI's next move. Sylvia Zhang once married a man 40 years her senior, immigrated to the U.S., and gave birth to her first daughter in 2011. 10 years later, she divorced. Her partner, Guojun Xuan, was different, older, wealthier, and deeply connected. Born in Xinjiang, China, by his late 30s, he owned multiple companies, served as a delegate to the People's Congress, sat on the Federation of Industry and Commerce, and was a Communist Party member. In Southern California's Chinese community, he was a known figure. He attended high-profile events, held leadership roles in multiple organizations, including the Xinjiang Chamber of Commerce USA, and often appeared alongside business elites. In California, he ran a real estate firm that, according to property records and testimony from employees, bought over 100 Los Angeles properties, many acquired through shell companies at foreclosure auctions. The Arcadia estate was enormous.
So as we, oh boy, this, what in the world? What is wrong with this? There we go. My apologies. I'm clearly doing something wrong, so I'm gonna fiddle with this. But as you can see, there are several cases like this where rich couples or even individuals will hire all these surrogates. They will have all these children. And you have to ask yourself, like, what is happening? What is going on here? And what is going on right under our noses? Like in plain sight, these people are trafficking children. That is a problem. That is a problem. Oh my gosh. So I'm just trying to figure out, when are we going to actually do something about this? So again, two types of surrogates. The first one is poor and desperate. That's the word I heard used over and over and over in all of these videos. You know, people being poor and desperate, and they needed money, especially these women in these third world countries. Ukraine is a big one. Georgia is a big one. And thankfully, there are a lot of European countries that actually ban surrogacy. So countries like France, Germany, Italy, Spain, China, Japan. So a lot of these Chinese, rich, wealthy businessmen, they come to other countries or come to the US because surrogacy is banned there. And that's why they're able to do this. Italy even criminalizes people who are a part of what they call reproductive tourism. If they find out that you're doing this, that is the criminal offense, as it should be. And remember, this surrogacy industry is a multi-billion-dollar trade. We know that things that make a lot of money, right? Once there's a lot of money involved, we know that that industry is no longer altruistic. We know that it is no longer a good thing, right? Once it is, once money comes into it, that taints the whole thing. So just understand that, you know, not only are the babies, which is my main concern, the actual children, but the surrogates. So the first one is the poor, desperate for money surrogate. And a lot of Black women are starting to do this now. But the second type of surrogate is interesting. She is what we call the benevolent life giver. She is grandiose in her desire to change your family's life by providing them with the child they so desperately want. That's often how she describes what she's doing. These women have a desire to be needed. They want to feel important in the lives of these other people. A lot of them are attention seeking. They need praise. They are very self-serving. It's not as altruistic as you think it is, okay? And a lot of these families often tell these children that they should be thankful that we loved you so much and we paid all this money and we went through all of this to have you. That's what a lot of families will tell these children as they're growing up. Okay, but thankfully, a lot of countries overseas, they ban this practice because it is a horrible practice. It is horrible for children. It is horrible for the surrogates. And there are even cases where, to some degree, it is horrible for even the parents that are seeking to have the child. There are several stories here of parents getting duped out of thousands and thousands of dollars. Like there are parents losing thousands of dollars through these fake agencies, through these surrogate scams. So it is not just, it's the babies that I'm worried about, because in my humble opinion, there are no adult victims. The surrogate women are grown adults who consensually chose to do this. There's a picture that I'm going to share. So one of them is Lucy Liu on choosing gestational surrogacy. It just seemed like the right option for me because I was working and I didn't know when I was going to be able to stop. I decided that was probably the best solution for me, and it turned out to be great. So she utilized someone else's egg and sperm to become a single mother by choice at 46. She chose to rob her child of having a father. That was her choice. That, forget the kid needing a dad. She didn't want to stop working. She didn't want to, well, at 46, she probably couldn't carry a baby even if she wanted to. She decided to go the route of using someone's egg and someone else's sperm and putting that. So she paid for all of it. She paid for an egg. She paid for some sperm. She paid for a person to incubate the baby. And that was her choice, right? Ebony K. Yep. Ebony K used her own egg, but she used some black man's sperm, and she willingly robbed her child of its father. So if I'm being honest with you all, you know, for a long time, I have gone back and forth with this topic for years, actually, because I have lots of clients that utilize IVF. I don't have any clients that have utilized surrogacy, but I have lots of IVF clients. I have a few clients who have had children, you know, single mother by choice. I have 3 clients that have chosen to do that. And I've gone back and forth. I've always felt like deep in my gut, something about this is wrong. And now, after having researched this topic, especially over the last month, I am very clear on my position that I think all of this should be banned. I think all of it is immoral and unethical. That we are, by choice, creating these broken homes. We are creating these wounds in children. We are doing that on purpose. That is a problem. All right, I got some comments. I'm going to try to, yes, he said same thing, Ebony K. Yep. One of the triplets passed. The lady and her husband kept the kids. The man got some kind of order that caused them to give the kids up. They are in foster care now. Okay, I'm not sure which case that is. I don't know if that's, oh, here we go. Right now, there is a black surrogate who had triplets for a single Chinese guy. I did come across that story, actually. The kids were born a couple of years ago, but the guy never came to get them. Yep, I actually came across that story. I'm not going to show it tonight, but I did. I'm familiar with that story. And it's crazy. And what single Chinese man, like, if that isn't a red flag? So a single Chinese man wants you to carry triplets. One of them passes away at 2 months old and then doesn't come and pick up the other 2. That's a huge red flag. Your favorite MSW says, I just pray as a black man, don't sell our seed for this BS. You would be surprised how many men are doing this. You know, $200, $500, a young college guy who needs money. They leverage these little lives out of selfishness. And she had the nerve to compare being a single parent to being a sole proprietor business owner. The nerve. These people are wicked. They are absolutely wicked. That's all I can say. These people are wicked. They're absolutely wicked. I'm going to show you another video here. This is a young woman. This is out of the country of Georgia. Sad video. Like I said, I had to take a week or two just to like get some of this out of my system because I was so sad. I was so distraught watching some of these videos.
That was such an intense experience watching that baby being born. Usually the baby would be put straight onto the mother's chest, but obviously the surrogate isn't able to touch the baby they've just given birth to. And in this case, the baby's intended parents are still in China. And so the baby's just been put straight into the cot and hasn't had anyone cuddle him yet. It feels really weird. You just kind of want to go and pick him up.
Naya runs the surrogacy agency that organised this pregnancy.
Why aren't surrogate mothers able to touch the baby?
Because after the birth, if surrogate mother will touch the baby, like there is a belief that surrogate mother will have the connection and will feel that she is a mother. So we don't want to destroy her feelings, taking the baby from her.
Isn't it inevitable that a surrogate mother would connect with something growing inside them?
During the pregnancy, like they know that there is a baby which is growing and needs to be delivered, but there is no feeling.
Naya tells us the intended mother can't carry a child herself, as she had a hysterectomy to comply with China's one-child policy, which was then abolished in 2015. She speaks to the parents through a translator.
Baby boy was born. Hello. I have surprise for you. This is our baby Yuan, born 50 centimeters. And here we have the surrogate mother, our hero, and she's feeling okay, if it's possible to say. Yeah, tell the parents huge. These moments are very emotional, like you have the experience like it's your own baby. Yeah,
that felt very quick.
Yes, because China is very quick.
We're told the parents might not be able to come to Georgia for weeks, during which time the baby will be fed by the nurses. After 9 months of carrying the baby, Jana's surrogacy journey is over.
It is despicable. It is absolutely despicable. And I want you to understand something. As a woman who has birthed 3 children, when you give birth to the baby and the baby cries, your breasts begin to ache, your breasts begin to leak milk, like something visceral happens in your body, something instinctual, something biological. There is no intellectualizing what is happening. And that's what these people have completely disassociated. They have completely intellectualized something that is never meant to be intellectualized. It is a natural, instinctual thing that they have now commoditized and said, well, this is a product, this is a service, this is how much it costs. Oh, she knows the baby is not her baby. She carried that baby inside of her body for 40 weeks. And she's in shock. That girl is laying there in shock. But she is a poor Ukrainian or Georgian woman from that country. She got paid $10,000. $10,000 to these girls is like $200,000. That's a lot of money in these countries. You have to understand that's a lot of money. There are stories that I watched where these women, they either already have a child of their own and they're struggling. Ukraine, when we were at war and all of that mess that was going on over there, these women are like, yeah, we can't go out. We can't make money the normal way. So now this is how we have to make money. And you would not believe how many women are doing this over there in these countries. You have it happening in South America. You have it happening in Mexico. Like they're going to these poor countries and they are preying on these women. And it is absolutely despicable. Yeah, it is absolutely despicable. All right, I got a question here from High Vibe. What are your thoughts on single people adopting children? So ideally, we know statistically that children are going to do best in a, so here's the gold standard. Let me give you the gold standard. Biological dad, biological mom come together. They create a child because that's God's ultimate design. They raise that child together until adulthood. That's the gold standard. Those two people are healthy. They're happy. They are raising a child in a low conflict, happy, healthy home. That's the gold standard. Okay, not a perfect home, but for the most part, a low conflict, emotionally available, happy, healthy home. That is the gold standard. Right underneath that, I would say, is a happy, healthy single parent. And that single parent could be a mother or a father. But again, biological. Studies have proven that when there is a biological element, right? I am invested in my offspring. I am invested in my DNA. So that's the next best thing, is a biological single mom who is happy and healthy and is stable, or a biological single dad who is happy and healthy and stable. Okay? And ideally, even before that, is that child being raised by both, but they're not in the same household. That's ideal even over the biological single mom or dad. But there are levels to this thing. But you're asking for an unrelated single adult to adopt a child. I'm not saying it can't happen, but there has to be a rigorous process. There is a rigorous process that people go through when we talk about adoption, because people love to say, well, what about adoption? Surrogacy and adoption is not the same. And we're going to talk about that. I'm actually going to pull up a video. I'm going to see if I can find it, by Katie Faust, who is the founder of Them Before Us. And she's going to talk about this, that it's just different. It's just different. You know, we have to, all right, let me find it. We're going to watch a couple of these videos.
Well, the way I talk about it is, what is surrogacy from the child's perspective? Surrogacy splices what should be one person, mother, into three purchasable and optional women. The genetic mother, who contributes her egg that helps children answer the question about biological identity. That's critical when it comes to identity consolidation. It's very hard for kids to answer the question, who am I? If they can't answer the question, whose am I? Which is why in the United States today, 95% of adoptions are open adoptions, because children benefit from as many connections to and a relationship with, when it's safe, their first family. The second mother is the birth mother. This is the woman with whom we form that in utero bond that the child can then build on throughout the rest of their life as it relates to trust and attachment. It's critical. And then the third is the social mother, the woman who provides that maternal love, that female, satisfies the female hunger every day. So surrogacy splits up these three women. The child always loses their birth mother, sometimes their genetic mother, sometimes they don't have a social mother at all. Okay. So that's what surrogacy is.
These 20 babies didn't have social mothers. They had abusive.
They had nannies,
babysitters,
institutionalized scale of care. Now, what is another detriment about the two girls being raised by the two men, and all these other children that are procured through sperm and egg donors and often surrogates, is they have unrelated adults in the home. So we've been studying family structure for close to 50 years, and we know something about what it takes for children to be safe and loved. And it is raised by their own biological mother and father in a lifelong union in a low conflict relationship. Scholars on the left and the right will say the biological parents are the most connected to, invested in, and protective of them. What elevates risk for children? Unrelated adults in the home. If there's unrelated adults, especially new step parents or boyfriends or girlfriends, risk of abuse and neglect increase. That's the very reason why adoptive parents go through vetting and screening, because social workers are not idiots. You can't simply walk into adoption agency and say, I intend to parent this. I'd love to be a parent. I want to be a mom. They won't hand you a child. Yeah. They'll say, thanks. You're actually a statistical danger to this kid. So we're going to come look at your house. We're going to ask your friends. We're going to get some fingerprints, and then we'll decide whether or not you can adopt a child.
Yep. Okay. So single people who are not biologically, related to the child, that they're a high risk. They're a high risk. And so we have to do our due diligence, right? We can't just give anybody a child. But guess what? Surrogacy allows rich people to skip all of that. We know as of today, there is no fingerprinting. There is no background checks. There is no checking of the sex offender registry. These agencies, these surrogacy agencies, these baby buying and selling factories, it is about the highest bidder. Okay, we know there are cases this year and last year of same-sex male couples where one of them is on the sex offender registry. They have a surrogate child. That is an abomination. They have a surrogate child. So if you have $200,000 in California and you are a felon, you are on the sex offender registry, you are just a crazy person, there's no psychological eval, none of that for the parents purchasing the child. They have skipped all of that so that they can buy genetic material from strangers, put it in another stranger, and oops, out pops a baby. That is completely ridiculous. And this industry is very much unregulated. It's all about the highest bidder. It's about the highest bidder, and it has to stop. It has to stop. It's crazy. High Vibe says, is private adoption also unmonitored? No, there are mandates. There are restrictions on adoption. You cannot be an adoption agency in this country and be unmonitored. No, there is no such thing. But surrogacy? Nope. And guess who gets all of the psych eval and they check the background is the surrogate. The surrogate gets checked out, but not the parents. Not the parents, but the surrogate. Yeah, we got to know what is she about? What time is she on? Yeah.
That is it's crazy to me what you're saying. And there's a good reason why you're not allowed to pay a birth mother, because children are you're not supposed to be able to buy human beings ever. But that's exactly what's happening here. And people are just going la, 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 pretending like it's not. So this is the headline. The baby's kept in the New York, this is from the New Yorker. The baby's kept in a mysterious Los Angeles mansion. Now, more information has come out about this, because what happened was last summer, this news broke. You're very familiar with this. A wealthy couple obtained dozens of children through surrogates. Did they want a family or something else? Now, this is all about the surrogates, like finding out and being so horrified. Oh, there's 20 other siblings. How horrible. What's going on? No, the most horrible thing about this isn't the family size.
That's right.
Technically, you could have a family like, I think about the Duggars, for example, 19 and counting. And I know a number of like beautiful Catholic families, they get up to like 12, 13 kids. Like the issue is not the family size. Although when you have, like if you go past 20, you're starting to get potentially unnaturally large, because a woman has about 20, maybe 25 years of fertility, maybe 30, and typically you have a baby as you get older, every 2 years. So there's a natural span for a woman to be able to have children.
That's right.
So to get past 20 kids in an intact household is highly unusual. It's like almost never going to happen. Right. So there's a natural limitation to the number of kids. So, but they're at 22. It wasn't 100, it was 22. It's still a lot, but like, okay. And then you have the surrogates are being interviewed. Oh, I didn't know. Okay, well, of course you didn't know because you gave your baby up. You sold your womb.
Well, and because there's no requirement to tell these surrogates anything about the intended parents.
Well, it goes a lot in here about how there's this one surrogate that it follows, and she's interacting with the mother, the adoptive mother,
right. Sylvia, the purchaser,
who's this like Asian lady who shows up with this leather jacket at the hospital, and she's like handing out $100 bills to all the surrogates, and she thinks, oh, she's kind of a little bit erratic, but she seems like on top of it. And she's just saying, well, she was so nice, she like gave me money, she like sent me a gift for my other kids. She was doing this with like, again, dozens and dozens of surrogates. But this was the part that really just sunk me, because like, okay, what is their intention? And their reason was, well, we just wanted a lot of kids. Like, so it's still unclear. They're probing the case, but here is I would say a part of the big tell. And it's buried in the New Yorker article. Like, you have to later on. Child welfare cases are confidential. But given that Elliot knew Hayes' full name and birth date, and that she had recently given birth to her. Now, Elliot is one of the surrogate moms, and Hayes was one of the children. Mm-hmm. She was able to get through to a caseworker at the LA County Department of Child and Family Services. Now, again, the only reason the New Yorker knows this is because one of the surrogate moms did her own sleuthing, and she was able to kind of bend the rules a little bit because she has no legal rights to this child, Hayes, right. Even though she should, but she relinquished them. And again, she's not the biological mother. She is the surrogate mother. So she just carried Hayes. The caseworker said that one of Sylvia and Gujan's infant sons had recently been hospitalized with head injuries. And I think this is what triggered the reporting, right? Because then police started an investigation. So this baby's in the hospital. What's going on? The baby had 20 siblings, the majority under 3 years old. Mm-hmm. That is unnatural.
That's right.
That's the thing. When I talk about big families, it's impossible to have 20 kids under 3.
That's right.
You have maybe at most 3 or 4 kids if you have like triplets, right. And then you have older kids if it's a big family that help care, and there's this beautiful dynamism that happens in the household. That's not what's happening here. Right. All of them, including Hayes, have been taken into foster care. Thank God, by the way, because listen to this next part. As for the rumors about child trafficking, the FBI was looking into them. A police affidavit that began to circulate last summer offered further clues. It included photographs of the hospitalized baby restrained by headgear, whose injuries were consistent with those sustained during a car accident or from being shaken. Stills from video recorded inside the home showed a makeshift classroom where toddlers sat in rows at tables facing a whiteboard. Who does this? All the children had shaved heads, and nannies could be seen physically disciplining them, forcing them into squats. Who does that for like a 2-year-old? Spanking them on top of a table and hitting them in the face. The surrogates searched for the children they'd carried, but the pictures were too blurry to make out individual features. So it was an abuse house of horrors.
These people should be put under the jail. Is absolutely ridiculous. And again, you have to understand there's no one monitoring. There's no one monitoring the intended parents. There's no checks and balances. These people literally had multiple surrogates carrying their embryos, multiple, over a year span. They had 20 children over a year span. So they're hiring multiple surrogates, multiple babies are being born in different states at different times to this Asian couple that I already showed you the YouTube video. It's the same story. What are they doing? What is this? And there's no one checking in on this. And only when all of these children are born and all of these children are living in this mansion and one of them gets injured, do we now go, oh, these people have 22 children. What's happening? 22 human lives at stake. 22 human children. It just absolutely blows my mind. But let me bring it all back to the title. We have stopped prioritizing the safety and needs of children in our country. And every section of these lives that I have, that's what we're going to talk about. Surrogacy is just one piece of the puzzle. Our country, for some reason, our society does not see children as the most vulnerable citizens of our world, of our country. We don't. We, somewhere in our head, in our mind, we are no longer protecting children. That is a problem. That is a huge, huge problem in my mind.
Yesterday, I think this New Yorker article came out. I've been following this story since the summertime when I first heard about it. You know, mansion in Los Angeles.
All right, we've learned a lot about that story. I'm going to move on to this next clip. I think this is it.
Has no rights to protect her baby. That donor mother who wasn't a donor, she sold her eggs, has no rights to protect her baby. And that's what this story is about.
That's right.
In LA. Let me just read the was there anything more you want to add before we get into the story? Please do.
Let me just set that up even a little bit more.
Please do.
With adoption, people pay money for adoption. That money never goes from intended parents to the birth mother. I mean, I know that there's ways you're like, well, we're taking care of her expenses. What is not happening is I'm giving you money to relinquish your parental rights. If that line is ever crossed, that is the bright red line in adoption. If that is ever crossed, it is no longer an adoption. It is trafficking. When money goes from intended parents to genetic or birth parents to relinquish their rights, it is trafficking. And that was one of the big things that me, as sort of the compliance officer, had to watch for, was there, which was not hard in Chinese adoption because the birth parents were never even known. But there are some countries and there are some scenarios in the United States where when that line gets blurred, you lose your license because that's not adoption, that is baby buying. But what is it that you're asking for? What do you pay money for when you get a sperm donor or an egg donor or a surrogate? You literally pay them to relinquish their parental rights. In the contract, it will say, I am accepting this $200 for my sperm, and I promise to never have any contact with the child that might result. You talk about the laws across the United States. There is no state in the United States that will allow a birth mother to relinquish her parental rights before the baby is born. The law presumes that that mother and that baby belong together. Only afterwards, a couple days or sometimes a couple weeks, will she be able to relinquish her parental rights for an adoption. In the world of surrogacy, we now have something called a pre-birth order, where women are forced to legally orphan the child they are carrying in the second or third trimester for surrogacy. When I talk about how the world of big fertility and adoption are polar opposites, it's not hyperbolic. These two things are totally set up against one another. One serves as a marketplace for adults. The other one serves as an institution on behalf of the children. And so the people that conflate surrogacy and adoption, I'm like, let's go. From the child's perspective, they're nothing alike.
Exactly. But I have heard this argument over and over that, oh, surrogacy is no different than adoption. And, you know, you're against adoption and all of it. They are two totally different things. Totally, totally different. And if you think, again, surrogacy focuses on the wants and desires of adults, it does not care about what's best for the child. It doesn't. These single moms by choice, it is about the single mom. It's not about what's best for her child. That's the truth. She is thinking of what she wants. And so she is willfully denying her child a father. And I'm not talking about my situation. Oh, we're divorcing. My children have a father. They know who that man is and they visit that man. Okay. They go to that man's home. That man comes to their home. That's not even close. Like Ebony K. Williams' daughter will never know who her father is. She will never visit her father. And she will never even know who he is. She is willfully doing that. Yeah. He says, how on earth do you confuse surrogacy and adoption? You'd be surprised. A lot of people think, oh, what's the difference? It's a huge difference. Adoption was put in place when parents die. Parents died in wars. They died for all kinds of reasons. and it left children orphans. This was back in the 1900s, 1800s. A child could be an orphan, right? Its parents die from some horrible, plague or war or what have you. And adoption seeks to make right the tragedy. It says, let's find good adults, although they may not be biologically related. Let's find good altruistic adults that want to take in these children and raise up these children. Children are the only people who need parents. That is the difference. But surrogacy, nope. It says, I don't care about the wants and needs and desires of children. I don't care about the fact that, children need a mom and a dad. We're two dads. We're two guys who want to have kids, and, our kids don't need a mother. Or we're two women who want to have kids and our child doesn't need a father. You are making that choice for yourself, not because that's what's best for the child. So we have to remember that it's two totally different things, totally different. All right, next one.
A donor egg, babies.
Yes.
We're not talking about adoption. We're going to get to adoption because there's a different context there that actually really matters, including in the impact on the child. We're talking about women who willfully, by design, go and
sell their genetic
It's not
child.
like, oh, I got pregnant accidentally and I can't carry this child because of these other, huge extenuating circumstances. So I'm going to make this heroic choice of giving this baby to a family that can really care for the child. And there's a mother and a father intact in this family. This is like, you're selling your eggs.
You're selling your children.
You're selling your children.
That's right. You're selling your children. Those children are just as much your children as a child that you will have conventionally later when you're married. You will have the same kind of genetic relationship to the ones that you sold as to the ones that you're raising.
So crazy.
There's no way for them to be less of your children than they actually are. So a lot of the kids created through sperm and egg donate, and it's not donation. Nobody is donating sperm. Everybody is selling sperm.
And eggs.
Yeah, that's right. Nobody is just donating your eggs. You are buying eggs and you are selling eggs. We have catalogs. You can Google right now, egg donor catalog, sperm donor catalog. You can filter your child's genetic mother based on race, education, whether she wants to be a known or unknown donor, price, obviously. So
why do they call it donor, Katie, and not just seller?
Buy an egg selling? Yeah. Well, because we want to make it sound like it's some kind of altruistic nonprofit, which it's not. And I'm glad we're going to talk about the distinctions between big fertility and adoption, because there are similarities, and that is that children lose their mother or father, but that's it.
See how we have in 2026, we've changed the language. Isn't that interesting? We've changed the words in the language. We call it donor, right? And we want to make people believe that every surrogate is an altruistic surrogate, right? That they are not being paid. Their womb is not being rented. And look at this. This is interesting. There was a case where, here it is. We're naming the girls Cher and Jessie Ann, one for our mother and one for theirs. Ross Matthews welcomes twin girls via surrogate who sadly passed away during delivery. This woman died doing this. And one of the twins got named after her. So whatever $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 that she made cost her her life. That's what is also mind altering to me, that women do not realize how precious that this whole experience is and how dangerous it is. I mean, you as a woman need to understand how dangerous childbirth is. It is not something to be taken lightly. I had twins. I had twins that I delivered vaginally. Okay, so I would never play around with this. I would never. But this woman lost her life. All right, we have is it a super sticker, super chat? Thank you so much. Night Call, $10. Thank you so much. let me get this straight, Miss Anita. There's a high likelihood that anyone that disagrees with you on this topic probably doesn't have a basic understanding of the difference between the two. I mean, a lot of this is education, right? All I am doing is educating people. I want you to understand what is really going on. Because if I'm being honest, I didn't fully understand. This isn't even technically a debate. This is me educating people on what's happening. Because like I said, the latest trend is Black girls are doing this. Young Black women are doing this to pay off their credit cards, to buy high-end things, to pay off their student loans. Like, we're seeing more young Black women doing this. They are becoming surrogates for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. They believe that this is the way to pay off their loans or to pay down their credit cards. And we need to be educated about this. And so a lot of people just don't have a clue. They don't have a clue of what this is and how deeply this hurts children. It can hurt them. You know, people just need to be educated. Melanin Goddess Evolution says, people keep telling me, hurry up and have a baby with no father. Shaking my head. I will never leverage the life of my child. She will remain a baby angel in heaven before I bring a child here. Not happening. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I just want to educate people. Okay, October 3074 says, are they Black American girls? What are their ages? So the young lady earlier, what was her name? Blondie, let me find it. Blondie Monique, 1932. She talked about, there's one Black lady who was a surrogate to a Chinese man. She carried 3 Chinese embryos, and one of the babies died at 2 months old, but she was married. This woman was married to a Black man. And this was, you know, in my humble opinion, this was her way of, again, making some money. That woman was paid like $50,000. That Black woman, and she might have been in her 20s. She was in her late 20s. That woman was paid $50,000 to carry these children. Now she's raising 2 of them because the man never came and got the children. But this was her bright idea to get some money, and she's married, and clearly her husband co-signed this. This is how crazy it's getting. Y'all need to be educated about this. Nightcall, thank you so much for the $5. He says, what's your thoughts on a relative giving their eggs to a sister, mother, or other close family member to help them have a child? You know, again, I want to read something to y'all because there was a video here, and I'm going to end with that video, and it is, let me see if I can find the gentleman's name. Vlad Svachik. He is a Russian Christian pastor. I'm going to end with his video where he talks all about why this type of thing is not appropriate for Christians. He's going to talk about it from a biblical perspective. And he's going to talk about God's design for babies, for having children. And all of this is outside of God's design. So I'm going to say no, that is not God's design. And at the end of the day, you know, there's some hard things that adults need to do. And one of them may be that, oh, wow, I am not able to have a biological child. That's not in the cards for me. That is a really hard thing. That's a hard thing. Let me see if I can find Katie Faust's video where she talked about that. But yeah, I get it. That is a really hard thing that we're asking adults to do. But, you know, I believe that sometimes that's what we got to do. You know, that instead of trying to play God and trying to, you know, Yeah, we got to do hard things. And that might be one of them. But this whole, it's the aunt's egg and she's giving it to her sister. Okay, so she's the biological mother. And even though her sister, the sister may be implanted with the embryo, but the aunt is the biological mother. I mean, it's all confusing. And that's us humans. We really know how to screw up our lives. That's one thing about humans that, like I said, it never ceases to amaze me that humans know how to completely screw up their lives. They know how to complicate their lives. Instead of doing it God's way, instead of following God's plan, they do, oh no, I'm gonna, just like the story in the Bible with Sarah and Abraham. Oh, I'm gonna choose Hagar. I'm gonna choose my handmaid and give her to my husband and he'll get her pregnant and then I'll have a child. Instead of waiting on God, you want to play God. And look at all of the confusion that caused. That woman and her son almost got killed. They got sent out into the wilderness all because you did not want to wait on God. And then when she got pregnant and had the child that God promised, now, I don't want anything to do with her and her bastard child, like, come on. Come on. Watch, Pray, Obey, Wait says, thank you for discussing this topic. It's devastating how we as a society commodify children. It really is. It really, really is. At night call, I saw a mother carrying a child for her daughter, but the daughter wound up getting pregnant during the interim. Shaking my head. Yeah, they were. See, again, because you can't wait. And now your life is complicated. It is. Seems like a modern twist on Old Testament Baal worship. It is. It's not new. There's plenty of stories in the Bible where it's not new, but it all has bad outcomes. All right, let me see if I can find this video of Katie talking about adults doing hard things,
They become adults. They're very rare. And what you're referring to is the Cornell studies were all done prior to 2015. And so you're right, there are 4 studies that found that there is a difference in how those children fare. You are right that some of them do come from heterosexual homes that broke up. And so there was a disruption in the background for that. We've had studies since then that have zeroed in a little bit more into those better practices. One that does support your conclusion about it was a study of lesbians in the Netherlands that showed that those kids did better in school performance. And that was a good study. But since then, we've also had a couple studies that use population data from the CDC, from the Ad Health tool of the government that found that these children do much worse. And that really shouldn't be a surprise to us, because whenever we're studying family structure, and we're not talking about same-sex parents, we're studying any other kind of household structure, sociologists agree on 3 things. Number 1, that biology advantages children. A child's own mother and father are the safest, most connected to, most invested in, and most protective of them. That mothers and fathers offer distinct and complementary benefits, that men do things women don't do, women do things that men don't do, and that mother or father loss through death or divorce or abandonment will leave a long-term scar on a child that makes it harder for them to thrive. So we know all of these 3 things. And then suddenly, when we study same-sex parenting, miraculously, we get 75 studies that say there's no difference. Well, how can that be? Because the gold standard tells us that biology matters, gender matters, and that maternal or paternal loss impacts a child. And yet when we study same-sex parents, suddenly it doesn't matter that one's not biologically related. It doesn't matter that they've lost a parent to death or divorce or abandonment or third-party reproduction, which is a separate data set, but we have things like My Daddy's Name is Donor to address that. And they've always experienced mother or father deprivation. So there really shouldn't be any kind of a question here. Like, biology got it right. It takes a man and a woman to make a baby. Those are the 2 adults that are best positioned to raise that baby. The child benefits from those 2 adults in ways that state assigned adults or a contract assigned adults is not going to benefit the baby. So I think the studies do matter, because it is our best shot at kind of giving more of an objective understanding.
Biology got it right. That's it. That's my argument. Biology gets it right. Nature gets it right. There is a reason why we need genetic material from a biological woman and genetic material from a biological man, because that is God's design. That is the way it was meant to be. That is the way it works best. Thank you, Night Call, for the $10. Appreciate you. He says, how does that work if a surrogate, after the birth of the child or twins, the surrogate changes her mind and doesn't want to give up the kids? Can the U.S. court force the baby to be handed over? So the surrogate signs her rights away before the children are even born. She cannot keep the children. They're not technically biologically hers. So yeah, she is forced to give up those children because she signs a contract from the beginning that, these are not my biological children if it's gestational surrogacy, meaning egg, sperm, not hers, just put inside of her. They're not her biological children, but even if it was, she signs that legal right away. So yes, they come and take the children. He says, would you say the glamorizing of surrogacy and adoption in the States is the result of first world problems? It is. It most certainly is. Once Kim Kardashian became the face of it, once Khloe Kardashian, Elton John, who else is on my list? I got a long celebrity list. Olivia Munn, Meghan Trainor, Sarah Jessica Parker, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban, Andy Cohen and Anderson Cooper, all these, Cameron Diaz, Chrissy Teigen, Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade, they use a surrogate, Nick Jonas and Priyanka Chopra, all these people, rich, famous people. If you have money, you can buy a baby. That is in essence what they are saying, that all you need is enough money and you too can buy a baby. So yeah, it's a whole thing.
Ask you about, for all the women listening who are struggling with infertility, and how it might come across as a little bit harsh, right? Like, well, just because you want it, too bad, so sad. And not that you're saying it like that, but I think people can receive it that way. Sure. Yes, totally. And maybe if you haven't gone through it yourself, which I don't know what your experience has been, that it might be easier to have that position. So what is your message to women who are struggling?
I haven't gone through it myself. And it's a mercy, because the women that I know who do, they describe it as like the worst breakup they've ever gone through every month.
I literally can't even imagine.
Yeah. It's very, very challenging.
It sounds so awful.
It is, as far as I know. And so I feel like all of those people, even people that experience same-sex attraction, that would love to be parents, and like some of these men, I'm sure, are really great fathers. And some of the women that are in same-sex relationships, I know, are very good mothers. But a woman can't be a father, and a father can't be a mother, and children deserve and have a right to both. But for the women struggling with infertility, I would say, I pray that we would bear their burdens well. I would also say, you probably have gotten some kind of diagnosis of unexplained infertility, and it's probably unexplored infertility, that there's not a lot of doctors that are going to do the work to really identify and resolve the underlying fertility issues, because there's not a lot of money to be made in that. There is a lot of money to be made in immediately saying IVF is the only way you're going to be able to have a biological child. So there, thankfully, is a whole field of medicine called restorative reproductive medicine that will diagnose and treat the underlying fertility conditions, of which there could be dozens between her and him. And oftentimes there's really a lot of things that you can do to solve the issue. Maybe there is PCOS, maybe there's endometriosis, maybe there are sperm challenges on the guy's side of thing that can be addressed or treated. Maybe there is a weight loss component, maybe there's a hormonal component. But there are actually ways that we can know and identify what is going on, so that you can have a baby yourself. You don't have to go back to the technician. You don't have to create 15 embryos and then freeze some of them and then genetically screen all of them and sex select some of them and then have to deal with the transfer and have that fail, which it very, very often does. Depending on your age, the older you get, the higher the failure rates are, the more expensive that it can be. And so actually there's ways in a lot of these cases, depending on the issue that is going on, that is leading to the infertility, restorative reproductive medicine, like naprotechnology, can have higher success rates at much lower cost. So I would say, like, open your eyes to all the different options that are out there and do whatever you can to heal your body so you can get pregnant on your own.
So interesting. What do you think?
I think that a lot of women out there who've experienced infertility are dying inside hearing you say that, because it just goes so closely, follows along with a lot of the advice that women experiencing infertility get all the time, usually unsolicited. Like, have you tried just relaxing? Have you tried changing this in your diet? I agree. There is way more we can be doing for women to prevent potentially infertility, to address it, to correct it. I agree. But that doesn't always work. So what do you say then? And also, infertility is not even always the issue. Sometimes women aren't able to carry their baby because they were born without a uterus. I mean, we haven't really touched on religion, but do you believe that that's just what God intended, or that's just how you were supposed to be and you're just not going to have children?
Yeah. There are really, really hard situations out there. And whether you're looking at it from a naturalistic perspective of, well, something has gone wrong in terms of development, or you're looking at it from a religious perspective of, oh, this is a fallen world. It is very clear that some people are going to have obstacles to pregnancy that even restorative reproductive medicine cannot fix, even though I'm grateful that that is out there. And I would say an adult desire or longing, even if it's beautiful and natural and God-given, doesn't ever justify forcing a child to sacrifice for you, losing their life, losing their mother or father, being separated from their birth mother, even if you have a very strong desire. In that situation, somebody is going to have to sacrifice. It will either be the adult or it will be the child. And I think it's unjust for the stronger party to insist that the weaker party sacrifice for them.
Of course, she has no answer. And the woman who was debating Katie Faust is the last woman who spoke. She's the founder of Us, Them Before Us. So the other woman, her name is Katie also. She's a surrogate. She's a surrogate, a professional surrogate. She's actually pregnant at this taping with a gay male couple's baby. So she is a professional surrogate. She's also married, and she has 3 children of her own. And she has no response, because what you are asking is for children to sacrifice over adults. That all of these embryos that you create and you don't use, they get destroyed. Or, oh, I don't want a girl, so I'm going to destroy all of the female embryos. Like, you don't have a response to that. Those children die because you wanted to play God, right? But the world we live in says that adults, and especially adults with money, they should get whatever they want. That's the message. That if you are an adult person and you have a desire and you have money, you should get whatever you want. That human beings can be bought and sold. And let's not even get me started on, it's not even just children. You have Instagram influencers flying to Dubai, flying to these Middle Eastern countries to be crapped on by these Middle Eastern princes. Oh, I'll give you $100,000 if you let me crap on you, if you let me piss on you, if you let me choke you or slap you or let all these men ejaculate all over you. This is the sick world that we live in. They literally believe that because these women consent to do this for money, that somehow makes it okay. It's not okay. But that is the sick world that we live in. We really believe that, oh, the woman is consenting, the man is consenting, and so, yeah, he should be able to do whatever he wants to her. It's wrong. It's wrong. Just like us wanting to legalize prostitution. It's no different. It's no different. The women who have to do this, you must believe that they die inside every day. The women who have to go out here and sell their bodies, they're dying just a little bit more every day. But you all want to legalize this because, oh, it's consensual. The woman wants to do it for money. The man wants to do it for pleasure. You all have sold yourselves an unethical lie that these things are harmless. They're not. They are not harmless. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I'm going to end this live with this last video. And this is a Russian Christian pastor. And he's going to answer that same question for people what about the people who are infertile or who want a child and can't have one? All right, let me pull this up. I'm having all kinds of tech problems tonight.
Know how that feels. But I like what theologian Wayne Grudem puts it, and he puts it sharply, and I think it's worth hearing it. He recognizes the sorrow of childlessness, but he also says that sorrow is no reason to overstep the moral boundaries that God has set in His Word concerning the conception and bearing of children. So can a Christian woman become a surrogate mother? I don't believe that a Christian woman should become a surrogate mother, especially in these commercial arrangements. And the reason is very simple. Surrogacy asks a woman to use her womb in the way God did not design it to be used. It fractures motherhood. It treats pregnancy like a service, the womb like a space to hire, and too often the child like a outcome of a contract. God designed things and they're not in random. From creation, children are meant to come into safety of a covenant family, marriage, a husband and wife who unite, conceive, carry, and raise child as one family. Surrogacy breaks that unity. It separates conception from marriage, it separates pregnancy from parenthood, and it places a sacred human life inside of financial and legal transaction. It normalizes a system where children can be intentionally separated from the woman who carried them. And while the Bible does record surrogate-like situations like Hagar, it does not present them as ideal to copy. And it shows the pain that comes from when people try to produce God's promises through human shortcuts. Yes, infertility is real. Suffering is real. But suffering is not a license to step out of God's moral boundaries. So my answer is no. Not because I lack compassion, but because I believe God's design is worth protecting, and because children are not commodities. They are image bearers of God.
That's it. That's it. So I can go on a whole Christian rant. I didn't want to make this stream about that. I really, I was very purposeful in not doing that, not bringing in my faith and what I know to be true. I can go on a whole Christian rant about God's design for the family. But I said, nope, I'm not going to make this stream about that. Even if I made everything in this stream secular, you can see the damage that is being done through this practice to children. And our society has put a price tag on children, on babies. We have put a price tag on babies. And again, we've changed the language. We've made it about, again, as we well know, the progressive, liberal, toxic empathy, women. Oh, but what about the mother? Oh, but she's infertile. Oh, she'll never be able to have a child. She is still an adult woman. Do you know how unfair life really is? Life is very unfair. There are people who lost their lives. They lost their limbs. They're blind. They're deaf. I mean, life is just unfair. That's just what it is. But as adults, we have to be willing to bear the hardships of life. We should not put that on children. But life is unfair. Let's not try to make it like it's not, but it's that overly compassionate, toxic empathy that says, you know what? This person, this adult person should get what they want. They should have what they want, no matter the cost, no matter who has to suffer, no matter the fact that thousands of embryos have to die, no matter who has to suffer, that adult woman or that adult man should have what they want. They should get what they want. Forget the children. And so I cannot co-sign that. I can't. We are definitely living in a fallen world. I mean, it's never been truer than right now. Now, the latest thing is that apparently Japan or China is working on the artificial womb and working on the robotic womb. And some women are saying, well, that's going too far. I mean, surrogacy is one thing, but to not even have a human carry a baby. Here's what I believe, and I'm going to believe this till my dying day. I do not believe that God will allow such a thing to happen. I think God, as the author of creation and everything good in this world, he's never going to let man outdo him. That's not going to happen. So I personally don't think that will ever happen. I think God, Jesus will come back before something like that will ever happen, because I don't think God is ever going to allow us to outshine him or outdo him. I just don't think that's ever going to happen. Just like they were saying, they're coming up with these, taking a woman's uterus out of, what is it called? It's a uterine implant. That's what it's called. They're doing this uterine implant, and they're trying it on women first, and then they're going to try it on trans women or men. That I don't think that will ever be a thing. I don't think that will ever happen. And it's just like, can we be honest? They have tried to make a biological man into a physical woman. And do you know how many times that these, sex changes go wrong? That there's infection, that the hole closes up. I mean, it goes wrong. Because again, I don't think that God will ever allow that. And really all they're doing is creating like this fake hole. They're creating this fake vagina. They can't give the man a uterus. They can't give him fallopian tubes and ovaries. See, he's still not a woman, because I don't think God will ever allow man to do that. All they can do is cut off his penis and remove it and create a hole. They can give him fake breasts. They can get him to take estrogen. That's it. They can do facial surgery. It's still not a woman. It's not a biological woman. It's a man. And like I said, I've read these stories about sex changes, and it's like a high incident. Like 60% of them go completely wrong. And then you think about female to male. The female to male transition doesn't work out. They rip all the skin off their arm. They take all the skin off their arm. They try to make a phallus out of it. It gets infected. It dies. It doesn't get erect because you have to put some sort of fake tubing in it and pump air into it to make it get erect. It looks like a Frankenstein penis. It's still, and again, they don't have sperm. They don't have balls. Like it's just aesthetic. That's all they're doing. They're aesthetically making a man look like a woman. They're aesthetically making a woman look like a man. And the woman takes testosterone. She grows facial hair, right? Her voice deepens. It's still not a man. Like, when are we going to wake up? It isn't possible. All you can do is aesthetically make it look like. It's still not. All right, y'all, I gotta go. Like I said, we're gonna talk next week about IVF and some of the ethical concerns about IVF. And I'm gonna really step on some toes. You think I did tonight? Yeah, we're gonna talk about IVF next week and some of the ethical concerns about it. Okay, but surrogacy is a great big no-no. it creates more problems than it solves. It really does. And we're going to find out all about that in about 10 or 15 more years. These children are going to come of age. They're going to talk to us about their homes and their lifestyles and missing their mom or missing their dad. Like in about 15 years, we're going to know the truth about all of this. And it's going to be really, really sad. But I want to thank everyone for joining me tonight. I especially want to thank Nightcall for all of his super chats I think it's super chats. I really, really appreciate you supporting the channel and supporting the show. Thank you so much for joining me. This was a topic that I needed to talk to us about because, like I said, I'm seeing this come into our community. Melanin Goddess was saying Candy Burris, she used, and I forgot about her. She used a surrogate, but more and more of us are going to start doing this. So a lot of us think this is a white thing or this is a white issue. No, we're going to see more and more Black people participating in single mother by choice. We're going to see more Black people participating in surrogacy. I already see it in IVF. We are utilizing these reproductive technologies. So we need to educate ourselves about it. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Have a great rest of the night. And as always, stay open to love.